Deja, thank you for that lovely introduction, and thank you all of you who are out there joining us tonight. I hope you're all staying safe and writing this out as best we can. First things first, that's a hooded merganser on the screen. That is a duck that is relatively common in the Piedmont of North Carolina in the wintertime. And so we started with that pretty picture. We couldn't start with something boring. Okay, so now a little technical difficulty for a moment there. Now you can look at what I call the map of TLC's world. So this is the area in which TLC works. We have, as you can see on this map, 6 open nature preserves. Those are the preserves are marked in orange, and they have a little girl running after a butterfly on them. And there's one McKeever Landing, one paddle access that's open to the public, and then the 6 open nature preserves. And then you'll note the Williamson Preserve on the eastern side of our area that is in blue, and that one sadly was supposed to open to the public on this past Saturday. And because of the coronavirus, we were not ready to open it. We lost a lot of volunteer hours that we really couldn't make up. So that will be opening sometime in the near future. Hope to see all of you out there at some time. TLC's mission, which I'm not going to read to you, it's there on your screen, but it includes those 4 public benefits, and we'll go over those a little bit more in the next slide. But also that last line about catalyzing community action and collaboration. We really like working with other people and other organizations. And leveraging the actions of different organizations other than our own. But here are these 4 public benefits, and any project we do, from land projects to other kinds of outreach events, they all focus on one or more of these 4 public benefits: safeguarding clean water, connecting people with nature, supporting local farms and food, or protecting natural habitats. And it's not a mistake that's a bird in that picture. It's a big part of the reason why I got involved with Triangle Land Conservancy. The habitats for bird are seemingly under attack at every corner, and so I looked for something, an organization that was doing something about that. So we work to protect these natural habitats. So how do we work? There are 3 main ways that we work. We own land, so we either purchase it or it's donated to us, or we do a bargain sale. We own and manage over 6,000 acres of land in the Triangle. There's this second category called assistance. So that is when we work with the state parks or a county or a municipality to conserve land. And so we've done around 5,600 acres in partnership with other entities. And so we'll buy the land, then we'll turn it over to the state, that kind of thing. We also work in regional partnerships in the same way. So we'll work with the North Carolina Botanical Garden, the Eno River Association, Tar River Land Conservancy, or Ellerby Creek Watershed. Lots of local organizations, but also lots of larger organizations. And then there's this conservation easement section. And a conservation easement is an interest in real property, and it's something that TLC will own, but a landowner will continue to own and live and manage on the property. Well, they may live there, may not live there, but they manage the property, but they relinquish certain rights when they do a conservation easement, mostly the right to subdivide the property. And we have over 8,000 acres of conservation easements. Oftentimes those conservation easements are farmers. So if you think about it, a farmer probably doesn't want to subdivide his land, or at least not right away, doesn't have any desire to do that, but wants to continue to work the land and earn a living on the land. And so that a conservation easement is a great way for them to do that, to continue to own and manage the land, but then pass the development rights on to TLC. We have 3 conservation easements on Mapleview Farm. That we did them in 3 different phases for a number of reasons. And at any rate, so this farm, produces this great ice cream and produces great milk. We like to call it our most delicious easement. One of the requirements of a conservation easement, we have to go and monitor that easement at least once a year. And there's always a line of staff members who want to go with our easement monitor and monitor Maple View easements so that we can get a little ice cream while we're there. We don't operate in a vacuum. And so when we're talking about not conservation easements anymore, but buying land, there are other entities that do the same kinds of things that we do. There are federal agencies, there are state agencies, there are national organizations. The National Wildlife Refuge System is a huge nationwide system. We have a fabulous set of national wildlife refuges in the eastern part of the state. So Pecosin Lakes National Wildlife Refuge, Alligator River National Wildlife Refuge. These places in eastern North Carolina, they're extremely significant because of these migratory geese and tundra swans that you see on the screen right now. You can have as many as 85,000 snow geese. The picture on my left, you can have as many as 85,000 of those at any given time at Pecosin Lakes National Wildlife Refuge. And tundra swans, you can have as many as 60,000 at a time. And these are big birds. Now these are only here in the winter. So you have to go down anytime starting around November or December, and they stay around through February, March, that kind of time frame. So a lot of times people go in January and February when it's cold and kind of miserable, but you can go see these really special birds. These are snow geese taking off, and it was at sunset, so the moon had already come up, but they were being lit really nicely by the sun that was setting on the other side. But so Pecosin Lakes National Wildlife, these big federal things, that's a great way that conservation has helped really rescue. These birds were not in any great danger of going extinct, but their habitat was under pressure, and now they're actually thriving. And there is some talk that there's more snow geese than are healthy, but nature has a way of balancing that out. We're going to shift now from the federal and other people's work to TLC's work. And we're going to start, what I'm going to do is take you through a number of our nature preserves and give you some ideas about what might be seen at those nature preserves. So I'm going to start here, the northernmost of our nature preserves, Horton Grove. You can see it's circled there. It's in northern Durham County. It's our largest nature preserve, 700 acres. Over 700 acres. It has a wide variety of habitats. You've got this upland forest, and that's a beech tree, so you've got all kinds of different trees. You also have a stream that goes through the middle of the preserve and attracts species and plants and all kinds of stuff that come to those wetland type environments. There's also 7.5 miles of trails, including one trail that is an educational trail for kids called That Makes Sense. And each little kiosk item has a little factoid that younger folks or people like me who are a little bit slower might find intriguing. There's also over 20 acres of meadow. So this when TLC obtained this property, this was largely a loblolly pine forest. And loblolly pine forests are monocultures. They don't attract much species diversity. They're not very friendly habitat for a variety of plants and animals and things like that. So this meadow is a real attractant for a bunch of grassland type species. And just, we got money to create this grassland, both from Burt's Bees to put a lot of pollinators out in this field, and then also from Audubon. Audubon wanted us to do some work creating habitat on Horton Grove, and so they gave us a small grant. And these are the kind of things that help us really steward our property in an effective way. But sparrows are a species of birds that really like these kind of habitats. This is a field sparrow. It's a year-round resident of the triangle. It has this nice little pink bill. It flits around, but you can see it really at any time at Horton Grove. And most of these birds you'll see in this presentation are birds that can be seen at any one of our any one of our preserves, but I kind of grouped them by habitat here. These are chipping sparrows, and you look at that nice eye stripe that's just above the eye, and then the nice red cap that's on there. Fabulous little birds that are hopping around this is actually in a trail. And then this is a song sparrow, another one of these sparrow species. It's year-round. There are more of them, it seems to me, in the winter than in the summer, but they're a year-round resident of the triangle. I usually identify it by the little spot that's on its chest. There are some other sparrows that have a spot, but not as distinct as that, and those birds tend to be a little bit bigger and a little bit more rare. And then there are these two. The eastern towhee is a really big sparrow, and it's the one that has the black head, the white chest, and the kind of russet color on its underwing there. That's a eastern towhee. The other bird in this picture is an eastern Phoebe, and that's a flycatcher. So you see them sitting on branches like it is there and looking around for some insect to dart out and catch and then eat. They're in the flycatcher family, and it's that way for a reason, because that's their main diet. This gorgeous fellow is a Scarlet Tanager, and I do say fellow because the females look a little different coloration to them. But this is a Scarlet Tanager. They're in the forest, so you can hear them better than you can see them. But they do come down occasionally to the level that you can see them. They also will come to your bird feeder if you have suet. They'll come to a suet feeder. They don't usually come to a seed feeder, but they'll come to a suet feeder. And then this is a sharp-shinned hawk. They are a winter resident of North Carolina. Occasionally they're around in the summer, but more frequently they're around in the winter. Much more common. There are just fewer of them around. You can see the really small head, but this hawk is, if you have an idea, like a red-tailed hawk, which is one people see a lot, kind of know how big it is. This is like half the size of that, much smaller, and of course, much more acrobatic because of that. And then, of course, they dine on birds, so that's the way it goes sometimes. Next, we're going to go to the southern part of TLC's area, White Pines Nature Preserve. White Pines is around 275 acres. It was the first excuse me, the first TLC nature preserve open to the public. When we first opened it, it was much smaller. We've added to it over the years. It's right there in Chatham County at the intersection of the Rocky and the Deep Rivers. So you have really nice river frontage on two sides, but then also some north-facing slopes that have created a habitat for these white pines. So white pines are more typically found in the mountains than in the triangle, but years and years ago in the Ice Age, you had white pines here because it was much cooler and you had the right habitat for it. Now with north-facing slopes, you have high humidity coming off of the water, and you have this northern slope that's shaded, and so the white pines are much more likely to grow there. And so we have this remnant Ice Age population of white pines that TLC protected in the 80s, and it's a beautiful spot. That's a great blue heron enjoying a little hunting. I think it had stopped to look at me as opposed to looking at its food because I was bugging it, but nonetheless, they're a common sight at White Pines. Also, another common sight at White Pines is the belted kingfisher. This is a fairly small bird, but look at how big that bill is. It is a dramatic bill. They fly up and down the river looking for fish to scoop up and eat. And I'm going to try and play their call here, and if you'll bear with me for just a second. You hear the kiki kiki, kiki kiki. Yeah, that is the call of the belted kingfisher, and you hear that. For me, I don't see them until I hear that, and then you can catch them and see them going up and down the. Once you hear them, you can really see them easily. Again, here's another picture of this great blue heron. It is our most common year-round heron. So you see great blue herons, you see great white egrets, those kind of things. But this is the one that stands out so much because of the coloration and because they're, they're 6 feet tall. They're just these great big birds. The confluence of the Rocky and the deep rivers also is a place where we see river otters on a pretty regular basis. These are 3 river otters that are playing in the river. These are not, I will have to admit, not at White Pines. They were taken in at Pecosin Lakes National Wildlife Refuge. But I have seen on more than one occasion river otters in the Rocky and at the confluence of the Rocky and the Deep River. So next, we're going to go north, and we're going to go to Brumley Forest. So Brumley is our newest nature preserve, at least for another month or so until we open Williamson. Brumley has 2 components to it. It's well over 600 acres. It has the south section, which has a number of mountain biking, multi-use trails. So there's lots of activity on that. It is a gorgeous place, but it is a place where we get a lot of visitors, and so it's my birding friends tend to not go to Brumley South nearly as much as they go to Brumley North. Brumley North, which has around 200 acres or so contained in it, it's become a real birding hotspot in the Triangle. People come from all over the Triangle, and if not further, to look at birds. The first picture that you saw on this slideshow, the one that told you we're going to start it in 5 minutes after the hour, that's a common goldeneye. It's a very rare bird in the Triangle. Probably in Orange County, that thing maybe has been seen, 10, 15 times, something like that, not many. It came to Brumley North, and Brumley North, there are so many birders there. It was seen like that, and lots of people came and got pictures of it, and really were able to document it in a way that they may not have been able to do did we not have so many birders interested in that space. The habitats that are at Brumley Forest are ponds like the one you see here, but that's one of 4 ponds that we have there. There is Stony Creek, which bisects the property, and Stony Creek is a pretty major tributary of the Eno River. It promotes and has lots and lots of migratory birds. Migratory birds are drawn to both their food and water sources. So when they're coming through, they need to find that. So things like Brumley Forest, which has ponds and streams, it's a great attractant. But it also has these great forests that are associated with it. So it's a great habitat that these birds are attracted to. This is a red-tailed hawk that I took a picture of out at Brumley Forest. I'm going to turn on my annotation thing for just a second so I can show you. With a red-tailed hawk flying like this, you sure can't see. You can see my cursor now, but you can't see the tail very well, so you don't know that that's red. But they always have this thing here, this belly band that goes across them. So that's a good way to tell them in flight. And also this black on the front of the wing. If you can see them from underneath, you can see this black on the wing, and that tells you it's a red-tailed hawk, and not a red-shouldered hawk, which is the other one that looks much like that. So here is a red-shouldered hawk, similar size, a little bit smaller than the red-tailed, but fairly similar and very similar body shape. This red shoulder. Again, this one is doing something that you do see pretty commonly, which is these 2 birds, the red-tailed and the red-shouldered hawk, will sit on a branch like that, looking down, trying to figure out what it is that they can eat. If they're looking at you, they're just sizing you up. They're just trying to say, it's probably too big. But they're looking for moles and voles and lizards and crayfish and things like that. And then they sit there on the branch, and then all of a sudden they swoop down and get their meal. Similar to the same habitats really, and the same behavior are the barred owl. So here's a barred owl that I got a nice picture of. It was sitting in the sun. Barred owls are diurnal, and not only are they diurnal, meaning that they're active both in day and night. They're really more what's called crepuscular, and crepuscular means they were active at sunrise and sunset. That's when they spend most of their time hunting and feeding and that sort of thing. That one was asleep, and I kind of moved or something, and it turned around and gave me the stink eye. And many birds, barred owls included, can essentially sleep with one eye open, and that's what this one had done. He was just looking at me with just one of his eyes. This is an American woodcock. So this is a ground bird, one that's around, you know, they can fly, certainly. They get in the air, they get in on trees, but they spend most of their time with that fabulous beak probing around in the mud, looking for worms and things like that. And they have this great camouflage. They're just convinced you can't see them. So oftentimes you can get very close to them before they fly away. This time of year in particular, if they're breeding, it's a real danger to their nests to have dogs off of leashes. So that's one of the reasons that we require dogs to be on leash at all of our preserves, because you have ground nesting birds, ground nesting mammals that can really be decimated by just one dog, not even trying to eat them, just running through and stomping on a nest and knocking out a whole clutch of birds. So again, please come to our preserves. Please leash your dog and clean up after them. Nobody wants to be stepping in some dog poop. But that's an American woodcock, fabulous little bird of the Piedmont. This is a Cedar Waxwing, and people ask me, you know, what's your favorite bird? What brought you into birding? This is one of the birds that brought me into birding. And you look at the outrageous coloration that it has, and you can't even see on its tail. It has, it looks like it's been dipped in yellow paint, but you can see this little red piece on the side that's there, and it's yellow underneath, and they have the mask, and it's just a whole host of things that these birds do, and so I was like, yeah, this is really fascinating. I want to learn more about these birds, and that was the gateway drug for me into birding. And this one is in particular, this one's on a cedar tree, so you can see those cedar berries. So cedar waxwings are all about eating berries of one kind or another. In the triangle, they're mostly here in the winter. They're here year round. I see more of them in the winter than I do in the summer, but they are around in the summer some. They also have the unique feature of they'll eat, you know, cherries and grapes and things like that have fallen off the vine and have fermented a little bit. And every once in a while, you will run into what is undoubtedly a drunken cedar waxwing because he's eaten a fermented berry of some kind. Next, this was taken in winter at Brumley Forest, and those big kind of pterodactyl looking tracks are of a great blue heron, and that's Stony Creek. It was completely frozen over when I took that picture. What I thought was really neat was if you zoom in a little bit, these are bobcat tracks that I don't know how far apart these were made, and I presume that the bobcat was tracking the great blue heron. I don't know which one actually came first, but I like to believe that the bobcat was looking around trying to get its next meal. I didn't see any evidence of either one of them actually having a meal at Brumley that day. Next, we're going to go on to the eastern bluebirds. The bluebirds are breeding right now. I have a nest in my yard, and the birds fledged today. I saw them out, saw the baby birds out. One was, and it's funny when they come out, they don't really quite know what they're doing, and they kind of fly places they shouldn't. This one flew onto my steps right in front of my dog, and my dog looked at it like, "What are you doing here?" And then the bird realized it probably was a bad idea to be there, and it flew away. And the mama bird came and started harassing me and the dog, so we knew better than what we were doing. Anyway, that was a male eastern bluebird. This is a pair of eastern bluebirds, so they're there looking together, and then they were scoping out this house, and so you can see this is the female. She has all this nesting material. She's getting ready to go inside, and then she goes in and make their home. Bluebirds will have as many as 4 broods of young each year. So, you know, these ones that fledged in my yard, I suspect these parents will, you know, feed them until they're independent, and then go ahead and have another clutch right on the heels of it. So up to 4 per year, particularly if a clutch fails, and that happens sometimes. So this is a picture of a heron rookery. Herons are colonial nesters. I'm gonna break in and get this cursor again so you can see what I'm talking about. But in this picture, there are almost, I think there's 20 great blue herons. So here's one, if you can see my cursor, here's one, here's one, here's one, here's one, over here, all on this side. In the middle here, you can see this white, and these white ones are actually not great blue herons, they're great white egrets. So they also nest in the colonies with the great blue herons. They're colonial nesters, and it's almost like a airlift to bring the food to the young. They're finishing up their breeding right now, so I think the young may well have fledged. But if you go to a Heron Rookery, probably 3 weeks ago or anytime in the spring, you'll see birds coming and going constantly because they're trying to feed these kids with these voracious appetites. It's like having teenagers at home, if you're familiar with that. And yeah, so then here's the same thing we started with, the hooded Merganser. That's a pair of them at Brumley Forest. They were sitting there on the pond in winter. They're kind of spooky, so it's hard to see them. In the triangle year round, the kind of ducks you see are much more likely to be wood ducks or mallards. In the winter, we have more variety, the Merganser and some ringneck, some other things. But if you see them, the male is pretty unmistakable. The female is much more mistakable, much more drab. Sometimes you don't even see them. They'll be sitting there. They'll blend right in. It's a survival mechanism. Then we go to these small birds and golden crowned kinglet. This is a winter visitor to the triangle. Has a nice golden crown that you couldn't quite see in that picture, but it is kind of striking that they do. They have a really high pitched call. I'm not going to play it for you, but I always kind of celebrate when I hear a kinglet call in the fall, because that means I haven't lost that level of hearing yet. This is its cousin, the ruby crowned kinglet. The ruby crown tends to be lower in the canopy. So if you see a small bird sitting around like it's over caffeinated and it can't sit still, that's probably a ruby crowned kinglet in the wintertime. In the summer, that over caffeinated bird is probably a blue-gray gnatcatcher. Blue-gray gnatcatcher is this tiny little, smaller than a chickadee bird, really loud, really jumps around all the time. This one was jumping around, scolding me, and I couldn't quite figure out why. And then I realized that mama bird was here on the nest about 10 or 15 feet away from where I was. And so I love these nests, how they build them out of lichen, and it's a cozy little spot. But they're great little hyperactive birds. So next we'll go to Johnston Mill Nature Preserve. So you can see Johnston Mill is only a few miles south of Brumley Forest. Brumley Forest is equidistant pretty much from Hillsborough, Durham, and Chapel Hill, about 10 minutes to get to that one. Johnston Mill is a little closer to Chapel Hill. It's over or right around 300 acres. New Hope Creek passes right through the middle of Johnston Mill, as does Oldfield Creek. Great place for birds because of the creek, because of the upland forest, and there's virtually no loblolly pine forest. So there are pines there, but there's not a densely monoculture loblolly pine. We do have a fair amount of boardwalk in there, make it a little bit easier so you're not as muddy when you get out. These are pileated woodpeckers, and pileated woodpeckers are our largest woodpecker. They nest at Johnston Mill. I was fortunate. I was out at Johnston Mill one day and saw this one hammering away at this tree, and I realized he or she was building a nest, and so I sat there, and it was really fascinating. They just banged away, and huge chips of wood were coming out as it worked its way through this. So we go from our largest woodpecker to our smallest woodpecker, and the pileated woodpecker is here year round. This is a Downey Woodpecker. You can see the nice red cap that it has and a very tiny bill. There's another bird that looks similar, a hairy woodpecker. Hairy has a much bigger bill than the Downey. But yeah, another common, probably our most common woodpecker in the region. The red-bellied woodpecker is also very common, but these guys are around a lot, and they do kind of a tap, 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 tap. And so if you hear that, oftentimes it's going to be a Downey woodpecker. And then there's the nuthatches, and the nuthatches are kind of a cousin to the woodpeckers. They're not really related to them, but they behave very similarly. They walk around in the trunks of the trees, pecking away, pulling and trying to find insects and things that are trying to hide in the bark. This is a white-breasted nuthatch, and it makes a lot of noise. You can hear it saying and doing all kinds of stuff. And then this little booger is the brown-headed nuthatch. Brown-headed nuthatches are endemic to the southeast of the United States. So you get people coming from the West Coast to look at this thing, coming from Europe, because they just don't have them anywhere else. Really small bird, the size of a chickadee. And I'm going to play you this one's call as well, because it's one that you can really easily identify if you hear it. So it's a squeaky toy. It's just like a squeaky toy. So if you hear a squeaky toy out there, that's the brown-headed nuthatch. Look around. You're probably in around some pines, and they're just a great little bird. And then we'll go to another small bird, but small but mighty, the Carolina wren. This is the bird also that's most likely to nest in your in the bumper of your car or in your mailbox or something like that. They're around the house. They like the human environment. They also have probably 13 or 14 different calls. But they really can belt it out for such a small bird. Great fun to have them around. And you probably see them at your house on a regular basis. And this is the state bird, the northern cardinal, unmistakable with the male, unmistakable with the red and then the black face mask. The female is a little drabber, has better for hiding, has a little brown on it, not the bright red. But these birds are almost always in pairs. You just very rarely see them by themselves, and oftentimes they're in groups of 4 and 5. Not actually, usually it's an even number, just because that's the way they roll. American robin, also a pretty common bird for the southeast United States and the Triangle in particular. They're a year-round resident. So next time somebody says to you, "Oh, I saw my first robin of the spring," you can be a pedantic birder and say to them, "They're here year-round. What are you doing, you casual?" So anyway, yeah, nice American robin. They're just gorgeous red-breasted birds. They have these nice. I think the eggs of these are robin's egg blue. So if you find a nest with some nice blue eggs in it, it's almost surely an American robin. And this is a hermit thrush. This is a winter visitor to the Triangle. The robin actually is in the thrush family, but this thrush has a nice cinnamon tail, and it's just a beautiful winter bird. In the summer, we get what's called wood thrushes, and wood thrushes have a really nice call. I don't have a good picture of it, so I didn't include one in here, but they have a great call, melodic call. Now I'm going to go to the warblers. There are probably 40-something species of warblers in the world. Many of them nest here, not that many, but many of them do nest here. A lot of them travel through. So we're going to look at the residents. So the pine warbler is here year-round. This is a female pine warbler, and this is a male. So the male has a lot more coloration to it. These are taken, actually, just so you know, these are taken in the parking lot of Brumley Forest. So these birds are not hiding in places that you have to walk 15 miles to get to it. You can pull up and park, and if you're fortunate, they'll come out and see you. Another nesting bird is this common yellowthroat. It has that lovely mask. This is the male, so he has this mask on his face, and he's loud and hangs out in the underbrush around the edges of fields and things like that. But this is the female, so it's not, no mask, no bright yellow, none of those things, but same bird species nonetheless. And then this is a yellow-throated warbler, so not a common yellow-throated, picking up nesting material, trying to get ready to set up its housekeeping. Really brilliant yellow. Even though you can see it in this picture, but even with a bad photographer and bad picture, outstanding yellow on these birds. And here are a pair of northern parulas or parullas. I say parula. The male is below the female. The nest is that great big thing of Spanish moss that's off to the side. That's their nest. They go in and out of there. They nest here in the summer. So the yellow-throated and the common yellow-throated, those are summer residents of the Triangle. They spend their winters in Central and South America, and then fly all the way here, both in spring and fly back in the fall. And then this is an ovenbird, another neotropical migrant. So it spends its summer here in nests. They get their name from the shape of their nest. They're another ground nesting bird, another reason not to let your dog run loose on a TLC preserve. But their nest looks like a Dutch oven. So it's this neat little compact nest. And you can see the bird is kind of drab. I think it's beautiful. It has a little bit of yellow, orangish on its head, but that's a good way to hide when you're on the forest floor. And then this guy doesn't like to hide very much. He's the Prothonatory Warbler. He's, you know, vibrant colors, lots of yellow, and really loud. You know, they nest in cavities along the edges of rivers and streams. And so anywhere along the Neuse River, it's common to find a Prothonatory Warbler. This is a Louisiana Waterthrush, another one of these neotropical migrants that nests here in the summer. This one was singing its heart out. I think he had found a good place to nest and was trying to convince some young lady waterthrush to come and be his bride. Now these birds, the next several birds that I'm going to show you, are ones that just passed through, and so they're the ones that drive birders like me crazy, because I can't remember their call from year to year because I'm just not that smart. And boy, they'll come in. Now, if I see this bird, I know exactly what it is. It's a black-throated blue warbler. It's really distinctive. Its call sounds a lot like some of the other calls that are around here, so it's hard to sometimes pick up on that. Anyway, black-throated blue warbler, neotropical migrant, moves through in the spring and in the fall. This is another one of those birds, the black-throated green warbler. So same thing, you know, it'll be here for about 2 weeks, and you have to learn the call and learn what they're doing and try and find them. And it's what makes this time of year a great time to go look for birds. This is a close-up picture of that same species, a nice face disc, nice black throat. Yellow warbler again, yellow warbler, pretty rare. They come through, they migrate through for a couple of weeks. Really brilliant bird with those nice cinnamon stripes on its chest. Another view of it singing. They're another one of these small birds that is really loud and really does its thing. And then this is a Cape May warbler, and again, migrant comes through. But a friend of mine took a picture. I took this picture, but took a picture just 2 days ago, and one was down near Bynum. So they come through. These migrants have to have places to stop and refuel as they make their travel from Central and South America to their breeding grounds, you know, in Canada and further north. So it's so critical to have places that they remember things. It's amazing to remember where they found food year to year. So having places for these beautiful Cape May warblers. Same thing with this Blackburnian Warbler. It's you know, who sees a bird like that? It's just stunning. That's supposed to be in Central or South America, or it's supposed to be you know, someplace other than here. Nope, that's right here. Those pass through, and they need the habitat. So with that, I'm going to go to my last picture. These are Atlantic puffins. They don't come to the Triangle of North Carolina, but it's one of my favorite pictures and one of my favorite birds. So I put it in the slideshow. So thanks for listening. I hope I didn't bore you too much, and I hope you get to come out and visit one of TLC's nature preserves in the near future.
Thank you both for that wonderful presentation. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the question and answer box now. I'm going to read a couple of the questions that we have. I heard there's a chimney swift tower on a TLC preserve. Where, and does it bring chimney swifts in?
Yes, there is at least one. I think there's just one. It's at Brumley Forest. It is on the south part. It is near the Bluebird Trail, and it's a nesting tower. So chimney swifts, if you don't know, are fantastic birds, and in the fall, they migrate in massive quantities, and they fly together, and they do these great aerial shows. Keep your eye on the TLC webpage. We'll do a field trip in the fall where we go and watch them land in the chimneys, because you get, you know, 800 at a time, and they come in these great swirls. The one at Brumley Forest is a nesting one, so you only get 2 birds at a time. and they will come and they nest. They, historically they nested in like hollowed out trees and that kind of stuff, but then they adapted to nest in chimneys. And so we built a chimney that I haven't checked it this year. I know they have nested there in the past. I know that there are lots of chimney swifts that come to Brumley Forest, but it's at Brumley Forest. If you need to come and look at it.
What TLC preserve is your favorite to go birding?
Well, it depends on what birds I want to see, and how much time I have. I live in Chapel Hill, so Johnston Mill and Brumley North in particular are really close. It's a 10-minute drive for me to get to either one of those, and I know I can see a pretty wide variety of birds, and so I go to those more frequently than the other ones. Horton Grove has a really great variety of habitats, and I've had flyover bald eagles at Horton Grove because the Falls Lake is so close to it, so it can have a little bit better variety. I also well, there's lots of places, depends on the time. Swift Creek Bluffs in Raleigh, if you're from Raleigh, that is a real urban oasis, and because of the creek that goes through, it gets most of these birds that I've been talking about tonight. So you can see them there too. So if you're in Raleigh, Swift Creek is a great place. And White Pines isn't bad either. It's a nice walk. So yeah, that didn't narrow it down at all.
Yeah, it sounds like everywhere is your favorite place to go birding.
The real answer is wherever I am, because because the birding never stops.
It's a good one. So you mentioned your favorite bird, but what is your favorite bird call?
Oh, wow. For a long time, my ringtone on my phone was the barn, B-A-R-N, not barn, not the one was the barn owl. It is an otherworldly scream, and oftentimes on TV and in movies, they use the barn owl scream for the bald eagle because the bald eagle has kind of a wimpy call to it. So I like in fact, Stephen Colbert's show uses a barn owl as opposed to a bald eagle. So anyway, that one is a great one. The wood thrush is a beautiful call, melodic, and I heard my first one of the spring last week, and I thought, wow, I've missed those guys. So yeah, I think that's it.
So are there group birding activities if I'm a novice and would like help or resource guides?
Lots and lots of them. TLC runs some every once in a while. I lead a fair number of bird walks. I lead them for TLC, as do others. There's the New Hope Audubon Society in Orange, Durham, and Chapel Hill. They, most of the time, run bird walks on one day on the weekend and then on Wednesdays, so twice a week. The Chapel Hill Bird Club runs Saturday bird walks. All of these are suspended right now because of the coronavirus. The other place, Wake Audubon, runs regular bird walks. I'm pretty sure that they do every week. They may take some time off in the summer. I don't get over there as much just because it's a little further for me to go. But they do it, and all of these birding groups are birders are really glad to bore you to tears with showing off their knowledge. And if they ever start showing off too much, you just kind of call them on it. But they really want to share their knowledge because they feel so good about it. There's a new one in Durham called it's like Durham. It's mostly on Facebook, but it's got Tom Ferguson from Rise Biscuits. He is this become a birding fanatic, and so he's been running bird walks on that. It's like Durham Birdman or something like that. Not Durham Birdman, Durham. Can't remember the name of the group. Anyway, there are lots of ways. Just Google birding groups, and people will go, and they'll be very generous with their time and their knowledge.
Thank you. Is there a Heron Rookery in the Triangle?
There are many. Probably, I know for sure of at least 4. The one that's accessible is on, or one of the ones that's most accessible is on land managed by the Ellerby Creek Watershed Association. It's north of Durham. If you go onto their website, they'll give you directions to it. It's you access it through a subdivision, and you can see it. There's one off of Highway 54 in Durham that is relatively easy to get to, although you have to walk through somebody's yard to get there. So the one at Ellerby Creek is the one that I know that's the best. I'm sure that there are some in Wake and Johnston County. I don't know where they are.
Thank you. Few more questions. So what was the name of that bird song app that you were playing?
That was not oh, thank you. Gosh. Got to give credit where credit is due. That is all about birds. It is a website that's hosted by the Cornell School of Ornithology, and they'd be irritated with me if I was charging money and selling and using their thing, but we're not. And that is a fantastic resource. So it's like having a field guide on your computer. There's just all kinds of information there. It has the calls. It has 5-6 different pictures of each bird, so you can see what it is that you're in different light, in different plumages. These birds, they're like these puffins that I'm looking at right now. In the wintertime, their bill is completely black. They look entirely different. So yeah, the birds look different when they're not in breeding plumage.
Do you know if there are any bird watching places that are still open?
All of the TLC preserves are open. I don't know about the National Wildlife Refuge places. The Wildlife Resources Commission lands are still open. The state parks are supposed to open back up on May 8th. So they may be there. Eno River Association, the Ellerby Creek Watershed Association, their preserves are open. So yeah, there are plenty of places to go. On the weekends, they tend to get crowded because of the number of people going to places, but they're still available.
Thank you. It looks like there aren't any more questions. So Bo, I just want to thank you again for your presentation. We will be linking all the resources, including the bird calls and the link to this presentation a little bit later tonight and in the thank you email. So we welcome you to learn more about how you can connect with nature by visiting our website to find maps and details for our nature preserves, as well as sign up for the hiking challenge, Triangle Explorer, and more fun activities. Join us next Wednesday as we learn about the Mountains to Sea Trail and backpacking with families. We will be joined by Mountains to Sea Trail's Betsy Brown and TLC's Christine Wilson and her family. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. I hope you guys have a great night.